Welcome, everyone. I see several people are in the room. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. I'm Wendy Hookwater, Vice President and Marketing Chair of Shortcuts and founder of Net Growth Marketing. Shortcuts is a nonprofit organization of professional consultants serving the short-term rental industry, and we're here to share practical wisdom that helps property managers and suppliers grow revenue and operate more efficiently. And I am especially excited to welcome you to AI That Actually Works, the hidden work before the magic, because this is such an important and impactful conversation that we are going to have today for the short-term rental industry. I can't wait for Heather to share her wisdom with you. Just a quick housekeeping note. Please use the chat to share your questions throughout the session, and we'll also drop in additional resources that will help you activate the learning and accelerate the learning for your organization. So we're grateful to Guesty for sponsoring today's webinar as well, and they will be saying a few words at the end. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Heather Bayer, Membership Chair of Shortcuts and founder of Vacation Rental Formula Business School. Heather brings 20 years of hands-on property management leadership along with deep training expertise, particularly in AI. Heather, thank you so much for being here, and it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's such a pleasure to be here today. And I want to just say something before I start and really lay this out, because this is not a session telling you how to create agents and make your business run automatically in the background while you sit on the deck and sip tequila. You can get all of that from other webinars and from YouTube videos, the ones like the build your business in 2 weeks on Airbnb and make $1 million in 6 months. You know the type. This is not one of those. There's plenty of those. And it's very true, because AI can feel like magic, just like Airbnb can feel like magic to some people when they're being told those things on a YouTube or TikTok video. But what happens with both of those things is no one's talking about what happens before that magic occurs. And that's what I'm here to help you with. So I just wanted to start with something that has been on my mind a long time. I had several conversations at the Verma conference last October. And I went there with an intention to talk to people about AI and figure out, what is it that you know about AI? What are you using in your businesses? And how do you think you're going to use it? And I spoke to a lot of people, but one conversation in particular really stood out to me. And it was one manager, 200 or more properties. And I said, what AI are you using? And he said, I'm using Perplexity. And he was really excited about what Perplexity could do for him. And he was using it. He said it was his tool of choice, and he was using it in multiple different ways. So my next question was, okay, so what about everybody else on your team? What are they using? And he said, I don't know. I don't know what they're using. And there was that moment of silence when he realized, I think, that he did not have visibility into what other people were using in his business. So no judgment here on him. He's a busy property manager like many of you are, but you don't know often what is happening in the background. So I've been 20, as Wendy just said, I was a property manager for 20 years. I've been in the business for nearly 30 now. That's a bit scary. And it's interesting that AI in now just looks like the PMS chaos that we had way back in the early 2000s, when property management software became sort of mainstream. It was okay for little businesses like ours to use it. And we got excited about what was out there. We experimented. We were able to experiment in those days because property management software was nowhere near as complex as it is now. But we didn't have any strategy. We had really minimal strategy on how to use it. And it's the same now with AI. And the problem now isn't AI, it's chaos. It's what it's scattered tools with no shared strategy. It's inconsistent outputs across your team. You might, as I'm saying this, you might think, oh, yes, we do have inconsistent outputs. We're not all on the same page here. And you've got shadow AI that's probably running unchecked in your business. And I'm going to talk a bit more about shadow AI later on. And there's also the missed opportunities within your business that's just buried in the noise. And I'd like to share one of the lines that I use a lot because I think it's something that should sit with you, that if your foundations are fuzzy, AI simply amplifies that fuzziness. It's that old adage of garbage in, garbage out, and it is just as relevant now as it has ever been. I'll tell you a story about what it looked like in my business way back then. We had an owner who called us and he'd sold. You've probably come across these situations. You've got 10 booked weeks in the summer. The owner calls and says, hey, the money truck backed up my driveway. I couldn't say no. I've sold the property. What happens next? Now, we had a contract. It had a significant penalty clause for selling for anybody who sold mid-season. It covered every single eventuality about rebooking weeks and what penalties that the owner who was selling would have. But the thing was with this one, it was that a team member had got there first. She took the call and she thought she was doing the right thing when she said, oh, that's no problem. Don't worry about it. We'll rebook everybody. You can imagine that caused quite the situation. But because we had the contract, but we didn't have a written SOP, we didn't have anything for her to call on. It was a standards problem. It wasn't a tools problem. And this is what's happening with AI now, is that different team members are using different tools and they're giving different answers to the same question. So we're going to be talking about a 3-pillar framework that turns your AI from scattered experimentation into sustainable advantage. It's going to turn what you're doing now into something that really works for you. We're going to talk about the foundations, your business DNA, which is the first thing you have to have in place. And secondly, awareness, how you can see clearly what's already happening in your business. And that's officially and what's happening under the radar, this stuff that you don't actually know about, the shadow AI. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about execution, how you can build systems and not collections of experiments. So let's go straight into your business DNA. And I want you to think of your AI as a capable new team member who knows nothing about your business. You've brought this new team member in, they're brilliant, and you know they're going to do brilliantly for you. Now, if this is a human, you're going to take that human team member through an onboarding process. You're going to tell them all about your business, everything that they need to know to understand how to represent you in the best possible way. But your AI isn't human. They're not going to ask if they've got it right or got it wrong. They're just going to make the best guess. And you've seen this. If you've worked in ChatGPT or if you've worked in Claude before, you'll know that they love to please. And if they don't have all the information, they're going to make a best guess about it. So imagine you give this brilliant new team member, this AI team member, your website, and then you say to it, write me an About Us page. Everything that you need to know is on the website. What it's going to give you is something generic, polished, but completely interchangeable. And you know all those cliches, you see them on About Us pages: passion for hospitality, attention to detail, memorable experiences. And there's a lot more cliches that if you look at the majority of About pages, you're going to see those. But let's do it differently. Let's give it your brand profile. Give it your story. Give it why you started in this business, who you serve, and why you do it in the way you do. So it's the same tool, it's the same request, but you're going to get a completely different result. And this is all about context. Context is everything with AI. Without it, it just guesses. with it, it is genuinely useful. So what goes into this business DNA? Well, there's 5 components. We've got vision, mission, and values. And when you feed those into your AI, it stops any tone and priority drift because it aligns every output that it gives with what your business stands for when it knows what your business stands for. And then we have the business overview. That's what you do, how you operate, who you serve, what you actually do to make your business successful. So you're going to tell it all about your business. Then thirdly, you're going to give it your customer avatars, because that shapes how the AI speaks to guests and property owners. And if you don't have customer avatars, and that means guest avatars and owner avatars, speak to me later and I'll tell you exactly how to do those. And then fourthly is your brand voice. You need to have consistency across everything AI writes. So you give it your brand voice, and that is your tone, the words you like to use, the phrasing you use, the words you don't want to use. You've probably seen on LinkedIn posts when somebody says, oh, this is all AI written. It's because it's very evident if somebody has just given AI a quick question and it's delivered a LinkedIn post for them. And it's full of things like the M dash that we've heard of many, many times, sentence structures, particular words that AI uses, like dive and delve and here's the thing. But if you tell it not to use any of those, but you tell it, this is the voice I want you to use, that becomes part of your business DNA. And then finally, you give it your core workflows, your repetitive processes, your SOPs. And then these 5 components become your business DNA document, and it's one document. And you can post it you can save it in Google Doc or Notion or just plain text. It really doesn't matter because any AI can read it. And then regardless of the platform you're using, you just paste that at the start of any serious AI conversation, and it changes every output to make it sound like you. If you're using Claude like I do 100% of the time now, then I use it in every project. It's in skills. It is there. That is my business DNA. It's my life in a document. So to get to your business DNA, you use AI. You give it one prompt. You can get Claude or ChatGPT to just interview you, and your business DNA is ready in minutes. I've got a prompt here for you. After this webinar, we're going to send you a workbook, and it has this prompt in it. So you can screenshot this, or you can wait for that to come. But in this question to your platform, you're going to say, I want you to interview me to create my business DNA document. Ask me one question at a time about my vision, mission, and values, my business, my customers, my brand voice, and my core workflows. When we're done, compile everything into a structured document I can use as context in a future conversation. That's all you need to say. And then your ChatGPT is going to ask you a bunch of questions. Now, even better, you can use the 50 question method. And I've created 50 questions just for short-term rental managers and hosts. We're putting the link in. I hope, Wendy, can you put the link into chat? If not, we can send it afterwards. But you just need to take those 50 questions and post them into the platform, and it will ask you questions one by one. And what you get at the end is your full business DNA document. Any LMA can read it instantly. You get consistent context every time, better outputs. It's a living document, so you update it as you grow, and it works with every and any AI tool. So the second pillar, the AI readiness audit, and this is about shadow AI. It's already in your business. Your team is using personal accounts. Vendor platforms are quietly rolling out AI features, which they probably emailed you about, but when they come in a bunch of other emails, you may have missed them. So you could also have your guests finding or not finding you through AI-powered search. And none of this is automatically a problem, but none of it's visible without an audit. So here's another scenario: a team member alone at the end of the day with a difficult guest issue. She wasn't sure what to do, but she's used ChatGPT at home. She uses it for recipes. She uses it for emails to the kids' school. So she's sitting there thinking, what do I do? So she opens a free AI platform, pastes everything, customer details, booking info, and the full complaint. And the thing is, the answer was really, really good. The guest was resolved. Everything went on. She went home. Nobody really knew that she'd done this. But the thing is that her customer data was now on a third-party platform. It was under their terms, training future models. What she did wasn't malicious, it wasn't intentional, but when there was no policy or approved tool, there was no visibility. This is what shadow AI is. So we do an audit to find out what people are using. And the audit covers 5 categories: people, processes, technology, data, and your culture and values. And you start off with who's using AI right now. And does anyone else know who's using what? And I think the best way to do this is to get everybody in the same room or in the same place once a week, maybe on a Zoom call if you've got remote working people, and then have this discussion: who's using what works well. Most of you watching this have probably read Will Guidara's book Unreasonable Hospitality. In that, he talks about the family meal where all the team get together before a shift, and he asks a question about the customer service that they've experienced in different places in the previous day or in the previous week. And somebody will come up with something amazing that nobody else has heard of, and then they implement something around that experience. Well, you can do that with your team with AI. Find out what they're using, what's really, really working well for them, and then get the people to brainstorm how could that work for us in the business. The second category is processes, and you're looking at what repetitive workflows are still done manually. And these are the biggest AI opportunities. Thirdly, which tools are you paying for that have AI features, excuse me, that have AI features that aren't yet enabled? And there may be features that are being used that you haven't switched on yet because there's so much coming out. So that's definitely worthwhile auditing. Fourthly, your data. Is your business information consistent and accessible? That goes back to the business DNA. You're collecting all this information in one place, you're making it accessible. If it's scattered, you've got messy data in and messy AI out. And then we've got culture and values. Does your team see AI as a threat, a tool, or something in between? So it's going back to having this discussion with your people and finding out who's resistant. There will be people who hate AI and won't touch it. And this is not a tools problem. This is a culture problem. And then you've got people who are convinced that their tool is the best one. Someone's using Grok, someone's on Perplexity, someone's on Claude, someone's on ChatGPT. So you need to figure out what they feel about those. So the culture and values category is very tied in with people. Whoops. Sorry about that. Clicking buttons here. So we've got a 5-pillar decision framework here. Before adding any AI tool or workflow, you need to run it through 5 filters. So we have the workflow. Is it real? Is it recurring? Is it a recurring workflow that would actually improve? Because some workflows don't need to be touched by AI. Is there a genuine pain point driving the need? Or did you just see it on a podcast or a webinar? And sometimes we can jump into these things. And I'm talking in a moment about my bright, shiny tool obsession, that we just jump on things because it looks like fun, or it looks like we really do need it when in fact we don't. And then thirdly, run it through data availability. Do you have clean, accessible data to support any decision you're going to make? Fourthly, is your full AI readiness from your team? Are they ready? Is your infrastructure ready? And then fifthly, will this measurably improve what matters to your business? So we have an AI readiness audit. I'm going to send this to you after this webinar. It's a 22 question audit, and it will give you results immediately. So I hope you're going to enjoy that. So the third pillar is choosing tools with intention, because the most important thing about AI tools is that they're not the strategy. They simply amplify what you already have. If you have clarity, then those tools are going to make it much better for you. But if you've already got chaos within your organization, it's just going to amplify that chaos. So that clarity plus doing a good audit leaves you or takes you to fewer tools which are used more effectively. And I said I'm a real sucker for bright, shiny things. Well, I used to be. I'm much better focused and intentional now about AI tools because there are just so many out there. So I want you to ask yourself three questions before you use any tool at all. Does it solve a real identified problem? And you take this from your audit, not from a problem that you imagine that might be in place. You want this real problem that's causing a bottleneck or it's causing some friction. And you feel that if AI came into the picture, you could actually make things better. The second question is, can your team actually use it? And this is a really important one because you don't want to get a specialist in, because if it needs one, this becomes a project. It's not actually a tool. So you want your team to be able to actually use the tool without any significant training or workarounds. And then thirdly, really important one, does it protect guest and owner data? And here you need to check your privacy policy. And if you don't have a policy that covers AI use, then that's probably a first thing to get going on. Check the data path, where data goes, where it's being fed in from, where it's going to. Going back to that end of day story I talked about, that customer service representative felt she was doing exactly the right thing. She wanted to fix the problem that the guest had, and she did it in the only way she knew how, because there was nobody instantly available to help her out. So she went to what she helped her out at home, which was her free ChatGPT platform. But if there had been a clear privacy policy that she understood, she would have known that data never goes into anything that is freely available. So when you're looking at the tools, you also want to look at 5 categories. Don't spread it out into too many. So you could have a client and guest communication strategy category, operations, revenue and pricing, documentation and training, maybe research and analytics, maybe marketing as well, definitely marketing as well. So you might have 5 or 6 categories, but not 15. don't spread them out too widely. And then maybe 3 to 5 core tools that you're using really well. And those 3 to 5 core tools you could be using within each of those categories. But every tool needs to have a purpose, because a tool without a purpose is just a tax on the team's time and attention. So it's really important that you go into this taking time over it to decide on the tools that you're going to use, because, as I mentioned before, there are a multitude of tools that are out there currently. And you could adopt all of them. But don't forget that AI moves really, really, really rapidly. Just one tip that I'd like to give you when you're thinking about buying into a tool, an AI tool for your business. And I've been mentioning this on LinkedIn posts because it's a habit I fell into, was finding a tool that I thought was brilliant and then paying for an annual plan for it, because the annual plan was so much better. It seemed like so much better value than the monthly plan. And then I found that I was buying into tools that had been superseded by something else within a couple of weeks. So I learned very early on, to only buy the monthly plan of anything that I thought looked interesting for my business. And yes, if I was going to pay $10 a month or $50 a year, I would buy the $10 a month plan. And then if it really worked for me after a month or two, then maybe I'd go to the annual plan. But we so often see these annual plans that come across as this great value, but that's just a tip that I just sort of thought of to share with you, because that one has really worked for me. So here we are. We've talked about the 3 areas: foundations and the awareness, and then the tools. But these need to be dealt with in sequential order, because you do need to build that business DNA at the very beginning. Now, on here, it says a 90-day AI action plan. If you're a small business, you could probably do this in a much shorter space of time. But you start by building that business DNA, building that information sheet, completing the AI readiness audit app so you can see where your 3 top gaps are in what you're doing in your business and how AI could help you out. So that's your starting point. That's your foundation. And then the second step is you look at the tools, and then you standardize on approved tools and make sure everybody is using the approved tools, and that shadow AI is not surfacing in your business, or it is being kept back as much as you can. People are still going to use their favorites. They're still going to be on their phone using Grok, using some other platform that is not perhaps approved. But if you get your team together enough that you can share with them the dangers of using shadow AI, then they should all come around to understanding why you are going to use these approved tools for the business. So in that second stage, you're now going to begin reducing the bottlenecks and friction points, because you've identified them in a very sequential way, and you've gone into it with depth and detail, and you know that you're only going to cover the workflows that are really, really pain points. And it's not just a nice to have, but it's a must have. And then, I've mentioned this throughout this session, you're going to communicate this to the team. Everybody should be on board on your AI use. It's not something that just sits out in a different department. Do you remember the old IT department? Well, AI now is across the landscape of every business. So there isn't just an AI department. Everybody should be part of it. should be sharing and should be communicated to when anything changes. So you need to create a communication plan. How are you going to get everybody together, bring them in, brainstorm? And in that way, you will bring in the skeptics and bring in the people who are making objections about AI and those who are worried about their jobs, because there's a lot of people out there worried about their jobs. So thirdly, and this is super important, there's no point in doing anything unless you've got some form of measurement, unless you can review the results, measure what's changed, and then identify what comes next. And that, because that, you can see what the opportunities are because they come from clarity, not reaction. So you're going from scattered experimentation to intentional infrastructure, not more tools, but doing a lot of the work that is underneath. So finally, here's 3 things I want you to remember. That AI is only as good as what you give it. And your business DNA is the single most important thing that you could build this week. If you just get off this call, download those 50 questions and just spend, and I'd say take an hour. This is not something you do in 5 minutes. This is your entire business. This is your story. I took 3 hours over mine. And I recorded everything. And just another thing, don't type, dictate, voice to text. I don't type anything anymore. I only speak into my phone, my laptop, whatever I'm doing. I use a little platform called Whisperflow, and I can just talk into anything right now, and it's a much better way of communicating with AI, and it doesn't matter if you ramble. I am a rambler. You've been hearing me over this course of this half hour. I can get into a little bit of a ramble, and AI will take that ramble and make it into something that has clarity. So when you're talking through your story, your business DNA, you don't have to make it perfect. You just ramble away and just talk about why you got into this business, what makes you passionate about it, what makes your owners and your guests and your other stakeholders feel that you are the best company to work with. These are the things that go into your business DNA, and that's what those 50 questions will help you with. So secondly, you've got to do this audit. You've got to see clearly what's happening in your business before you add anything new. Yes, go ahead and learn Claude. Get onto some of these webinars that are talking about agents and all the fancy stuff in Claude Cowork and Claude Code and all those things that I'm getting into now. But I did the audit before I started using any of the tools. You need to know what's already happening before you add anything new. And then finally, you've got to build systems, not connections. And I want you to think about yourself as an AI ambassador. We use this term AI ambassador for the people that are in the organizations that are understanding the foundations. They're not the ones that are just buying into the agent tools. They're the ones that are building infrastructure that compounds over time. So the very nature of you being here makes you an AI ambassador. So what happens next is completely up to you. I would say your next step is to do the AI readiness audit. It says the link is in the chat. I think Wendy will come in a second and she'll tell you how to find that. I think we'll probably send that. We may send that to you. I don't know, but follow it, complete your audit, and you'll get personalized results from it. If you want to go deeper, here at the Vacation Rental Formula Business School, we have what we call the AI Ambassador Program. It's an in-depth 7-week program that includes continued group coaching over the remainder of the year. And we go through this entire foundation to a much, much deeper level. And we've just completed the first cohort, completed a few weeks ago, and we'll be starting the second cohort in May. And we would love you to join us. So if you'd like more information on that, then I will be sending you that as well. Okay, that's your foundations. That's what you do before the magic happens.
Thank you so
Wendy?
much. It's Michelle. Thank you so much. We had a little, her electricity and her internet, everything went out where she is. So you get me. But thank you so much, Heather. That was really great. And I can see that 21 people stayed on and please stay. We have a couple of more things for you. I want to take a moment to introduce Kate, who is, there she is, there's Kate Cox with Guesty. She's going to give us a few words on Guesty AI and some of the things they're doing. And we could not do this without the help of our sponsors. So appreciate you all hanging through and giving Kate your time.
Hi there. Lovely to be here. I'm actually not going to do that, although I can do that if you're interested. I was going to share with you all a QR code to an AI survey that we just completed. So if you're interested in learning about the AI survey, you can see what everyone else in the short-term rental industry is up to. So we surveyed 534 property managers, and amazingly, 81% of them were using AI. But actually, only 23% said it was integral to their business at the moment. So there is a long way from people playing, as Heather said, and really making it operationally excellent. 54% of people were using the free AI tools, Heather. Not actually, 54% were using the paid AI tools and 33% were using the free AI tools. And then 25, we are one of those vendors who are launching a lot of AI products. So if you are a guest user, please reach out to us and we'll take you through all of our new updates. But we launch them regularly. We're launching one every month. But 25% of people in our survey were using the AI tools in their PMS. And 15% were using hospitality tools built specifically for the short-term rental industry, but outside of the PMS. So from what we got from that, most of those people were using it for guest communications. So from that, we learned that 62% were doing a lot of cutting and pasting from ChatGPT into guest communications. The whole survey is there if you're interested. Have a look at it. We will, as any vendor in this space, would love you to take you through what we're trying to do with AI. But as privacy and security is high, we are one of the only vendors who are SOC 2 compliant. So if you use our AI version, you get an inbuilt security win as well. But love to take you all through that. If anyone's interested, just reach out to the team.
I had no idea you'd done that survey. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, we launched it yesterday, Heather.
And it's amazing how many people you already had fill it out, which I know you guys have a broad reach on social media. So congratulations on that. I did have one question. Thank you very much, Kate. Appreciate it. Heather, I did have a question that was from the audience that said, what if you already have an AI agent set up? Should they just get rid of what they have and start over? Should they augment it? What should they do if they've already got that up and going?
Oh, well, that's the augmentation part. You can go back and with any AI agent, you should be able to go back and see what it's working from. Depending on where it's how it's set up, but you should be able to go back, see what it's working from, and then give it the core information that it needs. Then that would be interesting to see what change it shows in output when you upload your business DNA.
Interesting. Good. Well, great. Well, thank you very much. And thanks for our attendees today. And, keep an eye out for more shortcuts, educational topics. We're doing one a month right now, and everybody make it a great day.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Heather.